We are live. I was at the coffee shop and an idea popped in my mind. Tell me stories about the kind of work Christopher Nolan puts into his work, film, even little things like great score. Okay, so let's see. Tell me little. All right. Tell me stories about the kind of work Christopher Nolan puts into his films. This also reminds me of something, and we need to note that down. All right. Grog is watching Reddit. Reddit is where you can get some interesting stories. Let's see if we can straight go to Reddit. Oh, wow. Has anyone worked with Christopher Nolan and how is he on the set? I knew a bunch of background actors who worked on Tenet. Wow, Tenet was crazy. Tenet was crazy. I remember Tenet. Wow, Tenet is like a movie that nobody understood. Yeah. When did I watch it? Did I watch it in theaters? I don't remember, but I watched it. And I'm like, I have no idea what is happening. And it's like half the time you are trying to keep track because Tenet is all about even the name is cool. The name is cool because name also shows that okay, you can read front to back and back to front. I forgot what is that term called. But also the movie is structured in a way, is basically done in a way where you can watch it front to back to front, something like that. Really cool concept, but yeah, it's very hard to understand what's happening. And I think I started like that was one of those movies when you watch that movie, you come back home and you start watching YouTube videos about people explaining what actually happened in that movie, and you're still like, I don't know what's happening. I remember this is something that I did with wow, Inception as well, where this one guy had a map. He had a 3D map of all the dream layers that were happening in Inception, and he had this 3D map so that it's easier for people to understand that hey, this is how you follow Inception movie and what was happening in that movie. I probably would have been on that too had I joined a month earlier. Desert battle scene filmed in Arizona, like 20-yard days. A lot of them had to repeatedly run up hills backwards. Wow, the desert scene was literally like what 15 minutes. That was kind of the end, but 15 minutes. But 20-yard people are putting 20-yard days in there. A lot of them had to repeatedly run up hills backwards. Wow, run up hills backwards. So you have to be really good at acting. Wow. The extra didn't really interact with him, but they said the actors had no clue what the story was about, including Robert Pattinson. And they said Robert Pattinson was super chill. I think it was a no cell phone set, but I don't remember for sure. No cell phone set. I was an extra on the internet for the Oslo scenes. Great fun watching my idols pretend a couple of meters pretend a couple of meters away from me. Nobody knew what the heck the movie was about back then. In fairness, I watched the film. I still don't know what it was about. Yeah, I think this was the movie where they were like, even the actors had no idea what was happening. You're correct about the phones. No phones anywhere. They could theoretically disrupt the shoot. Nolan himself does not have a phone apparently. If you want to get in touch with him, you call Emma, his wife producer. Wow. It's always amusing when rich people talk about productivity and say they don't have a phone. Yeah, but you have full-time assistants that use the phone for you. Okay, that's dumb. That's a reason why he doesn't have phone. How do PAs get their work done without a phone? Not being sarcastic, genuine question. Background casts are usually wrangled by third ADs. In some markets, there's a notion that getting direction directly from the director means you are no longer background but taking direction, so do you do be paid more? I worked on the set of Dunkirk and Weymouth as a location marshal. I actually opened the gate to let Chris Nolan onto set. He acknowledged me and said hello. That was a very cool moment as 19-year-old obsessed with his work and new to the industry. I guess that counts as working with him. I spoke to his driver and he told me he didn't say a word the whole car journey and had his head down in his notebook the whole time. Makes sense. It was a great experience. We'll work with him again, haha. We'll work with him again. I worked with Hoyt on 2-3 ads and he always spoke of Nolan in high regards. My actor friend was background cop in The Dark Knight. He said Nolan was very detail oriented, even knowing what position the extras were in before and after lunch and having them revert back to how they were. Very nice and polite. My friend ran into him during a bathroom break and he walks around with a calm demeanor and not the I'm in charge type of attitude. He stayed at the hotel I worked at when he was filming Insomnia. I don't know what Insomnia is. We actually talked for. Alright, so maybe, I guess, if we don't know, then we will quickly search. Insomnia came out in 7.2 IMDb 2002. Okay. This is the movie, and it's about Chris Nolan. Memento comes the story of veteran police detective Al Pacino, who is sent to a small Alaskan town to investigate the murder of a teenage girl forced into a psychological game of cat and mouse by the primary suspect. Events escalate, and the detective finds his own stability dangerously threatened. Wow. We actually talked for a few minutes most days. He was in town. He seemed like a nice, super smart dude. But holy shit, I can understand how directors can get a little testy sometimes. He basically spent his entire day trying to deal with a totally coked out peak prima donna. Oh. Trying to deal with a totally coked out peak prima donna Al Pacino. Like, they make their way to Stewart, BC. BC? Wow, British Columbia. But Pacino doesn't want to be in Canada, so Nolan had a bunch of yachts brought over to the Alaskan side of the border, one for each of the stars. Apparently, Pacino didn't like the fact that his mega yacht was of a similar size to Robin Williams' yacht, so they had to rent another yacht that was larger than Robin's. And Robin spent the entire time with actual insomnia because he's used to seeing full daylight at 11 p.m. while having to wake up at 1:30 a.m. so he could be ready to shoot when the golden hour starts up at 3:30ish in the morning. The dude has always been able to spend a ridiculous amount of money on practical effects. Robin's cabin from the movie was built in the middle of the lake as one of Canada's most protected national parks. Was built in the middle of the lake on one of the Canada's most protected national parks. He spent a massive chunk of his budget on this one set and it involved hiring. Wow, this is very interesting. This is very interesting. Like how much money is spent on movie sets. And this is the reason like Vancouver, British Columbia is just known to be great at movies. Wow. Ridiculous amount of money on practical effects. Robin's cabin for the movie was built in the middle of the lake on one of Canada's most protected national parks. He spent a massive chunk of his budget on this new set and involved hiring specialized construction workers who were also professional divers. And they built almost the entire thing by hand. Since they had to make sure everything was in its original shape when they left, they would be fined if the government even found a toothpick left over. They were so meticulous with their teardowns that it took a month of full-time specialized crews, all disassembling the set by hand. And for a set that could have been just as beautiful if it was shot a half hour away, so he didn't have to follow all those rules. But he just wanted that one specific look, so he spent the money. He filmed the movie in the same general area that the thing was filmed in. Well, the set for the thing was over 45 minutes away, but still close enough. Oppenheimer, let's go. I worked the last day of shooting on the Berkeley campus as a background actor in Oppenheimer. I was one of the students walking near the physics building. We did 5 or 6 exterior establishing shots. It was the most. I have to watch Oppenheimer. I haven't watched Oppenheimer. By the way, today I'm going to watch F1 movie again because the first time we watched with the boys, it was amazing. It was amazing. And everybody was like, hey, we got to watch it again. Actually, it was me who was like, hey, I'm definitely going to watch this again. And then a bunch of people actually go and they're watching with their girlfriends. It was the most detail-oriented shoots I've ever worked on. Being a period film, I felt literally transported into 1945. Of course, we had no script or any story details, only told we are playing 945 or now we are playing 947. I think it was a 17 or 18 hour day, all IMAX exteriors. I don't think there were even chairs on set, absolutely no cell phones. They were explicit about no bottles of water. They had a woman collecting the bottles of water as soon as you were finished with it. Wow. Details down to my tie clip and the books I was carrying, all considered carefully for the time period. Obsessively detailed so everyone was in top form. I never met Nolan personally, but he stood next to Hoyt the entire day. Besides looking through the lens a few times himself, no video village. Was very bare bones and efficient. The vibe was like everyone on there aching despite the grueling desert shoot the crew said was exhausting. It was truly impressive to watch and be a part of. I felt honored to be a part of it, not to mention the IMAX experience was probably the best theater experience ever, maybe tied with Interstellar. Close friend worked as a grip on Dunkirk. By the way, our answer is over here, but how long does Christopher Nolan, how long to make each movie? Let's go quick answer. One year, Memento. 3 to 4 years. Insomnia, 2 years. Batman Begins, 3 years. Prestige, 4 to 5 years. Wow. Dark Knight, 3 years. The Prestige. Oh shit, I know watching The Prestige. Okay, careful post production leading to an October 2006 release. Inception. Wow, 9 or 10 years. Passion project germinated for nearly a decade with Nolan drafting the concept around 2000 2001. He refined the script over 8 years, balancing it with other projects. Pre-production ramped up in 2009, with filming from June to November 2009 across 6 countries, including Japan, Morocco, and Canada. The ambitious practical effects, like the rotating hallway and VFX-heavy dream worlds, extended post-production into mid-2010 for a July 2010 release. Dark Knight Rises. So he's definitely like, while he's working on all the projects, he is kind of leveraging those ideas and developing the script. Dark Knight, 3 to 4 years. Interstellar, 5 years. Wow. All this stuff is happening in the background. Development started post The Dark Knight in 2008 with Nolan initially hesitant but committing by 2010. Pre-production including location scouting. India. Okay. Set bills. Underground Prison took 2011. Filming ran from May to November 2011. Post-production. Interstellar, 5 years. Dunkirk, 2 to 3 years. Tenet, 5 to 6 years. Wow. So there's so much overlap happening over here. So much overlap happening. Oppenheimer, 2 to 3 years. Adapting American Prometheus. American Prometheus, what is that? And he has already announced his next movie, which is gonna be Odysseus? Whoa. Odyssey. American Prometheus, the Trump and Tragedy of J. The Triumph, not Trump. The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer in 2005 biography of theoretical physicist. Leader Manhattan Project, produced by First Nuclear Weapons, written by Kai Bird, for a period of 25 years. Wow. Scriptwriting was intensive but fast completed by early 2022. Pre-production, including assembling a massive ensemble cast and recreating Los Alamos, spanned 2022. Filming took place from February to May 2022, with post-production wrapping by mid-23. Often spends years on scripts, especially from originals like Inception or Tenet. Adaptations, The Prestige, Oppenheimer, or studio projects take less time, around 1 to 2 years. Pre-production, typically 6 to 12 months, involving location scouting. Wow, every movie is a hit. I haven't watched these first 3. Nolan's low-budget debut took about 1 year to shoot, but the overall process stretched over a couple of years due to its guerrilla-style production. Filming occurred on weekends around day jobs with extensive rehearsals to minimize film stock use. Nolan wrote the script himself. The post-production was minimal given the $6,000 budget. Wow. I No, every movie, The Prestige is amazing. Christopher Priest's novel with script development starting around 2001 2, alongside his brother Jonathan. Wow. Typically 6 to 12 months, involving location scouting, casting, practical set builds. Cornfields for Interstellar, Dunkirk, Mole. Filming 3 to 6 months. The Memento was shorter, 25.5 days. And Falling was stretched over a year due to budget constraints. Post-production 6 to 12 months longer for VFX heavy films like Interstellar due to black hole rendering and Inception dreamworld effects. Total timeline: most films take 2 to 5 years from content to concept to release due to its indie nature. What is happening over here? What are all these things? What if we ask the same question without the quick answer? Let's see. This is such a blessing. This is such a blessing. Like, this is a question that I would not... It would be so hard to collect all these things. But what AI is doing is, what Grok is doing is collecting this from all the different sources and putting into a format in which it thinks that I asked, and in the format in which it thinks that I want the answer. Close friend worked on as a grip on Dunkirk. As we were lighting a close-up shot of the instrument panels of the fighter plane, an actual plane, if I'm not mistaken. Just let's get a Dunkirk vibe, Dunkirk movie. Yeah, right here. We just need a vibe of what was happening. It looks something like this. Yeah, this is the shot. This is the iconic shot. This shot is so cool. This shot is so cool. You can see that on their hats, their caps. And Christopher Nolan is now working on Christopher Nolan. Okay, and now he's working on his next movie. Oppenheimer must be amazing. Nolan may be the only person who could do this. How the Odyssey is already gunning to be 2026's biggest film. 2026. 54 years. British and American filmmaker, Hollywood blockbuster, structurally complex storytelling, is considered as the leading filmmaker of the 21st century. Earned over $6.6 billion worldwide, making the 7th highest grossing film director. Wow. Okay, then who are the highest grossing film directors? Who are the top 10 highest grossing film directors? Alright, so you thought about this question now. Let's see. Notoriously meticulous, involving extensive script development, practical effects, and large-scale productions, which can extend timelines. Original concepts can take longer due to years of ideation, while adaptations or sequels may move faster. Based on development ideas, script, pre-production, filming, post-production, release. Ultra-low budget concept. You pretty much have the same answer. Okay. Memento 3, Insomnia 2, Batman 2.5, Fighter 6. Prestige. Refined over years, pre-production, filming January. Post-production 6 months. 9-month comprehensive timeline from casting to finish. Inception script evolved. I think quick answer gave a better response, like especially with Inception. The Odyssey, yes, announced October 24. Epic adaptation of Homer's poem. Development likely begin mid-24. Pre-production late 24-25. Principal photography early 25. Post-production expected through 26. Okay, 2 years from announcement to release. Prolonged scripting innovation, franchise entries or adaptations, average 2 to 4 years. Efficiency stems from a clear vision and hands-on involvement, but scale, global locations, IMAX adds time. Directed 12 features with Odyssey as his 13th. So Steven Spielberg is number one. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Steven Spielberg is number one. James Cameron, Avatar. Right, they got like one hit, which are massives. Russo brothers, Avengers. Oh, they're gonna be at the top. Peter Jackson, The Lord of the Rings. Okay. Yeah, they got like one hit, and that is taking over. Michael Bay, David Yates, Christopher Nolan, Ridley Scott, The Martian, Tim Burton. Steven Spielberg. Wait, just to check. What are all the Steven Spielberg movies? Schindler's Jaws, The Fableman, E.T., Jurassic Park, Ready Player One, Jurassic Park, Catch Me If You Can. Okay, that's a good one. Jurassic World, AI, Artificial Intelligence, Back to the Future, Adventures of Tintin, The Terminal. I don't remember if I watched this movie. Indiana Jones. Okay, so he got a lot of franchises. Indiana Jones, Jurassic World, Catch Me If You Can, Jaws, Gremlin, Transformers. Okay. He did Transformers as well. Steven Spielberg. Very interesting. And if you look at James Cameron, I don't really know James Cameron. Alright, so what do we got? We got Avatar, Titanic. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Avatar, Titanic, Terminator. What else? Piranha. Okay. More Terminator, the entire Terminator series. Oh, Alita. Okay. Alita. Point Break. I don't know if I watched this. It feels like I watched Rambo. Okay. Schwarzenegger, Lost Action Hero. Okay. Cirque du Soleil. Russo Brothers. I think that's all Avengers for Russo Brothers. Russo Brothers movies. The Gray Man. Right. Extraction. Avengers. Michael Bay. I'm not sure about any other movie of Michael Bay other than Transformers. Or is it all Transformers? Alright, let's see. 60 years. These are all Transformers. Bumblebee. There's Bad Boys. Okay. Transformers. Pearl Harbor. Okay. That is really cool. Six Underground. Okay. Teenage Mutant. Yes. 13 Hours. Oh, wow. I've watched this movie. Ambulance. I feel like I've watched Bad Boys. The Rock. Bad Boys for Life. Pain and Gain. Teenage Mutant. A Quiet Place. Yes, that's a good one. The Purge. Oh, Ouija Board. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, okay. Michael Bay has some interesting ones. David Yates. Is that all? Is that all Harry Potter? Let's see. Fantastic Beast. Okay. Tarzan. Okay. Pain Hustlers. Oh wow, that is a good one. That is a good one. Emily. Emily. I forgot her name. Emily. Okay, interesting. Now let's go back to this. How Nolan took so long to come over and approve their lighting setup that by the time he did, the ambient light had shifted and they had to redo everything again. So I guess the takeaway is to do the right thing. If you need to set up something, don't be too early. Incredible detail focused and knows exactly what he wants when he walks on the set. Super interesting story.
He works super fast. He shoots one camera at a time, nothing more than one camera. He doesn't have a video village. He has a small hand monitor. And he was watching my close-ups on like a hand monitor, and he wasn't happy with like stuff. The first scene we did, my stuff was basically shot chronologically. And the first scene we did is the scene on the train. It's a pretty intimate scene with me and Cillian Murphy. And Chris was like, he made me do 14 takes on the close-up. And this is a guy that does like 3 takes.
And this is your first scene,
my
shoot
first
day.
day.
Now,
First
were
day.
you thinking about, oh my god, everybody's looking at me, Cillian Murphy thinks I'm terrible, I'm bombing, I'm getting fired.
Yes.
All these things you're thinking of, you're obsessing.
Oh, consciously in the moment. And it doesn't help that Chris is like, I don't know what you're doing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, because I'm on that tiny monitor, you know. But he wanted something different than what I was planning. And, you know, I had to adjust on the fly. But you don't argue with Chris Nolan out of respect, because he's one of those directors, he doesn't demand respect, he commands respect. He is the hardest working man on the set. He's involved in everything. There's no, you know, assistant doing half his job for him. He isn't taking a break. He never sits down. He never goes to the bathroom. So you just go.
He's not exempted.
What's that?
He's not exempted.
That's right.
That's what he knows.
I love this genius guy, and like all I want to do is make him happy. So we did 14 takes, and the next scene we did 9 takes of my close-up. And at the end of it, he came up to me and he said, "Well, 9 takes is better than 14, which is what you did the first time." So,
But he's being sarcastic.
Oh yeah, but he's the opposite of. And there was one day where we did a scene, and I went up to him and I said, "Is that good?" And he said, "Fishing for compliments." He really doesn't like that.
Really?
Like,
So let me ask you
You wish him compliments.
this, because I've done this before where I'm on set and the director wants something and he's giving me now notes and I don't even understand the notes. Like I'm just gonna do another take that I don't even really get what he's saying. I feel like if I keep asking him, I don't understand. It's gonna make it worse. So I just do it and see if I get lucky with my abilities.
Right.
Did you feel like after 8, 9, 10, just like, oh, I'm just trying something different? Did you ever look at Cillian Murphy and go, oh, here we go?
Yeah, no, because Chris has so much brevity in the way he gives notes. He's so specific and so smart about how to get what he wants out of you. I guess I was just in a place of stuck in what I had been doing for months in the auditioning process, and then what I had planned. And it also, like, the literal space that we were in, that train car, was tiny. IMAX cameras are massive. They're like 3 times the size. And it was him, his DP Hoyta, Cillian, literally like off camera, sandwiched up against the wall. And so there's not a lot of like mental space, physical space. Yeah, and so I think what ended up happening was I was very much here, and I needed to be very much here. And it took me 14 takes to get there. It probably took me 10, and he gave me 4 good ones.
Do you go, how many did Cillian Murphy get?
Yeah, less. Not a lot less.
Did you go home afterwards and call your wife and say, I don't know,
Yes.
this could be my first and last day?
Yes.
You did? You were that nervous you're going to get fired?
100%. 100%, yeah. You know, that movie specifically, because you look at that cast, and you go, man, there's some heavy fucking hitters in this cast.
Yeah,
Downey, Oldman, and Cillian, and the list goes on, and Emily Blunt, and Florence Pugh, and you just go, man, I can't suck in this. If I had a smaller role, I could kind of suck if I wanted to. But I have to, like, fucking chew this thing up and spit it out. I have to make something of this. And yeah, I was really nervous. But everyone was. Everyone in that movie was kind of like, wow, it's a murderer's row. It's one of the best casts ever, and one of the best ensembles. And it was just a murderer's row. I remember Jason Clarke came in to do his scenes, and I did my one scene with him, and even he was like a little like.
He had a lot of dialogue too.
A lot of dialogue, and he has heady moments, and you could see that he was up to the challenge, and he was going to nail it. But it came from a place of, I better nail it. It wasn't the most laid back environment.
Yeah, you got to step up. It's like I know my lines inside out, reverse, forward. I don't care if it's 2 lines. I'm going to know it 1,000,000%.
Plus, you're shooting on IMAX film, so it's not like digital where you can do this all day. Like they're running out of money as you fuck up, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so, it was just,
Did they pay you well? Did you get paid well?
yeah, all right, yeah. It was surprising, actually. It wasn't bad. Good, yeah.
That is the best way to respond. Yeah. So they got paid really well. I work in corporate video production. Okay, so this IMAX thing is very interesting. That with IMAX, this is so interesting. It's like, yeah, with IMAX, it seems like it's not a digital camera, and every time you are taking a new set, it is costing you money. And is the costing of money actually good, because that actually puts pressure on the actor to actually perform better? I don't know. I work in corporate video production and know two guys who work with him regularly. They really speak highly of him. They were the first people to hire him on corporate productions, and they both held out for free on his first movie, which he shot at weekend. So now he gets them to come along and do stuff on big sets if they want to. One of them is former boss turns him down. To be fair, he has corporate customers he needs to keep happy, and he made his own horror movie last time I looked. But I was happy to see Nolan used to contact them because they held him 20 years ago. Nolan creates an intimate experience for the actor similar to an indie film, even though it's a massive movie. There's minimal people around the primary set. Also, he's always by the camera or with the actors, not in a tent far away. He doesn't sit down ever, doesn't really use the bathroom, know what he wants, funny, sarcastic. He always wears a suit. He's real class. I introduced himself to me as Chris on day one with a firm handshake. He's highly focused, he moves fast, and unlike other directors who start wide, push in, and then turn around, Chris would turn around or start close up depending on the moment or emotion of the scene and the crew. Like a well-rehearsed dance troupe would all move 180-degree vehicles and all to accommodate this. Much of his crew have all been working with him Batman Begins, so they play together like an orchestra. Chris wears his formal woolen jacket, but doesn't hesitate to get his hands dirty climbing atop the Ranger to mark a scene, or standing behind Case to move him. Possibly my favorite moment on set. He grabbed me and him, and I hid behind Case and moved him in one scene because he didn't like the way the crane was moving him. He learned to wear every hat on his early shorts, so he has the utmost respect for everyone in every position. It was a real privilege to work alongside of this master. Look him in the eye if you see him on the WB lot, haha. I also heard a grip complaining that Tenet was his last Nolan movie, I guess just because of how demanding he definitely expects a great deal from his crew. Very interesting. Let's go back what Grok has for us. Captivating stories. One of his most inspiring tales come from Nolan's debut feature Falling, which he made on a shoestring budget of just $6,000. Mostly spent on 16mm film stock. With no funding or professional crew, Nolan wore multiple hats: a director, cinematographer, and camera operator, enlisting his wife Emma Thomas as producer and a single sound technician to round out the team of three. To stretch their resources, no one was paid. Actors supplied their own clothes and apartments as filming locations. Nolan adopted a guerrilla-style approach, relying on natural light from windows for most shots and rehearsing scenes up to 10 times before committing to film, often nailing them in just one take to conserve precious stock. The production dragged on over a year, squeezed into weekends and around day jobs. But this hands-on, resourceful grind honed Nolan's signature non-linear storytelling and proved his ability to craft a taut thriller with sheer determination. Commitment to authenticity led him to plant 500 acres of real corn in Alberta, Canada for scenes depicting a dystopian farm. Rather than opting for CGI fields, his team cultivated the crop from scratch, tended it through the growing season, and filmed amid the actual harvest, only to plow it under afterward. This practical approach not only provided tangible visuals but also allowed actors like Matthew McConaughey to interact with a genuine environment, enhancing the film's grounded feel amid its cosmic scope. Wow, what is that? Interstellar crop. looks like the Grok logo. It's the inspiration for Grok logo. But anyways. Nolan collaborated with theoretical physicist Kip Thorne to visualize a black hole accurately, resulting in groundbreaking simulations where each individual frame took up to 100 hours to render, in a single second of footage required about 100 days of computing power. The scientific rigor not only advanced real astrophysics but underscored Nolan's insistence on blending spectacle with intellectual depth. Preference for practical effects over digital trickery shines in Tenet, where a script called for a Boeing 747 to crash into a building instead of using miniature CGI. Nolan calculated was more cost-effective and visceral to purchase a retired 747 orchestrated a real controlled crash at an airport in Victorville, California. The stunt captured in IMAX involved meticulous planning to ensure safety and impact, reflecting his philosophy that tangible destruction delivers unmatched realism. Similarly, in The Dark Knight, he filmed the 18-wheeler truck on Chicago's LaSalle Street using a custom rig with TNT and a hydraulic piston, with the driver inside during the maneuver, all done in one take after closing out the city block, showcasing his bold, high-stakes directing style. Tenet. Boeing 747 crash. Oh, right. I remember that. Crashed a real plane in Tenet. To be able to have a Boeing 747 at your disposal and to ultimately perform stunt work with it, it's every kid's dream. Wow. I remember that scene. To prepare for, but that is just like the plane is just moving. It's just like moving. It's not really like, I thought it was more like it's landing over there. But no, it's just moving. To prepare for Dunkirk, Nolan didn't just research history books. He personally recreated the perilous Channel crossing by sailing from England to Dunkirk in a small boat with his wife and a friend, enduring the rough seas to grasp the soldiers' ordeal firsthand. The immersive experience informed every frame, from using actual World War II era vessels in the evacuation scenes to employing cardboard cutouts and crew members in period uniforms to swell distant crowd shots without relying on digital extras. On set, Nolan rebuilt the Dunkirk mold from original blueprints for authenticity, and he mounted bulky IMAX cameras on vintage. What are these IMAX cameras? I keep hearing on IMAX cameras. And how do we make them cheaper if it costs so much money? What? They're so loud. They're sewing machines. How do we make them cheaper, smaller? On vintage fighter planes for aerial dogfights, pushing technical boundaries to capture hyper-real warfare. Crew members made Nolan as intensely focused yet polite and hands-on. He was so detail-oriented that he remembered extras' exact positions before and after lunch breaks, ensuring continuity without a fuss. One background actor recalled Nolan's calm demeanor even in casual encounters. Like, I remember one of my friends, she was in film school, and she actually worked on some films, and her job was, she was kind of the continuity person. So basically making sure that if, let's say, a scene is happening right now, and I took this a cup of glass, and while talking I put it over here, and now we gotta reshoot that. So it's her responsibility to make sure that, okay, this cup goes back to the original position and everything around goes back to the original position. Even the weather, the dresses, everything. So very interesting. Pushing technical boundaries to capture hyper-real warfare. One background actor recalled Nolan's calm demeanor even in casual encounters, like sharing a bathroom break without any ego. Like sharing a bathroom break without an ego. On Interstellar, he introduced himself simply as Chris with a foam handshake that dove into the fray, climbing atop spacecraft sets or manually adjusting props like the robot case, treating every crew role with respect while maintaining fast-paced, dance-like efficiency. He eschews video villages, remote monitoring tents, video villages, preferring to stand right by the camera or actors for an intimate indie-like atmosphere, even on massive productions. Okay, so that's what he meant by video villages. So basically, there are assistants. Yeah, there are like assistants who are doing the shoot, who are actually moving the camera, and you are sitting with like 7 monitors or 8 monitors in a tent where, and you are looking through that, okay, what is actually happening over here. One background actor recalled Nolan's calm to me there, preferring to stand right with the camera or actors for independent like atmosphere even on massive productions. His personal quirks like carrying a hot tea flask everywhere and rotating just 2 outfits on set highlight a no-nonsense work ethic that keeps him laser-focused. For Oppenheimer, Nolan's dedication involved deep dives into historical and psychological research, crafting a script where every line and shot propelled the narrative. He worked giving actors full story details upfront, fostering mystery, and ran a bare-bones set with no distractions, demanding peak performance during grueling shoots. Scripts often take years of refinement, inception, trained, and evolved over 8 years, culminating in feats like building a 100-foot spinning hallway for zero gravity fights. This is Inception. Inception. Zero gravity fights. Oh, this is it. Wow. Wow. The truth about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's hallway fight in Inception. Interesting. Where Joseph Joseph Gordon-Levitt trained for weeks to perform stunts amid the rotating set, who blends ground immersion with painstaking detail, always prioritizing innovation and authenticity. What is that?
In this video, I'm going to be looking at following the Christopher Nolan first feature film. I ended up actually finding a VHS copy.
Something else you'd like to tell me?
I'm a writer. I was gathering material for my characters.
This particular film is told in a non-linear way as well, and it grabs you very early on. But I want to go into some details of things one should take note of in terms of your own filmmaking career. You will be a film fan, specifically a fan of Christopher Nolan films. What I'm doing right now here is a scene detect function where every cut that is happening in the film is being detected by some sort of AI that we can potentially look at some of these edits. As far as I know, it probably took him several months, if not longer, to make this film.
What we're going to be following, we were sort of shooting a short film every week. So it would be a 2-minute, 3-minute chunk of the film done every weekend, and that was the approach we took.
The character is changing appearance. His hair is long, and then it's intercut with scenes where his hair is actually short. And then at first, I thought because it was shot at different times, but it actually makes sense in the storytelling. So in the middle, it gets revealed that he actually changes his appearance. Let's just go into this opening image right here. Insert hand, gloves, keepsake box that he's going through, title.
The following is my explanation. More of an account of what happened. I've been on my own for a while and getting kind of lonely and bored.
This movie actually looks very interesting. I just want to know what was happening. The following. The UFA calls on Ryan Hardy. This is the one, right? No. The following, 1998, yes, this one. Okay, it's just the following. A young writer living in London follows people in the hope of using their lives in his novels, but the hobby becomes an obsession, and he soon finds himself going further than intended. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, he's a writer who's looking for inspiration, who's looking for a story to write about, but then he. Wow. Okay. Okay. The following.
Main character, long hair, he looks a little scruffy. A lot of these shots outside of him walking, like there wasn't really lots of a setup in terms of dialogue scenes or anything like that. They just sort of stole these shots. I think Nolan did camera himself.
To follow people.
Who?
Anyone first. I mean, that was the whole point. Somebody at random. Somebody who didn't know who I was.
This character actually becomes the co-star of this film.
Just let your eyes go over, drift across a crowd of people. All of a sudden, that person isn't part of the crowd anymore. They become an individual. Just like that.
There he is again.
Just became irresistible.
So you followed women?
No, I didn't follow women. It wasn't a sex thing. I followed anybody. I just wanted to see.
The person that is interviewing him, we don't really know why he's talking to this person. We don't know who this person is. The beginning part kind of just explains the premise.
It was supposed to just be completely random. And when it stopped being random, that's when it started to go wrong.
And he had some rules to it that he didn't want to break.
Hooked, I had to start making up rules to just try and keep it under control.
But then visually we're already seeing that he's breaking those rules because this is not a random person. Because why would he have a picture of her?
Other people are interesting to me. If you ever listen to other people's conversations on the bus or on the tube, seeing somebody on
It feels like lots of random shots. And at this point I thought, okay, he's just kind of trying to find a story by slapping some VO onto it. It's not the case at all. It's all by design.
No, no ad.
And final this investors. Your chance at a film to challenges you watch excellent.
Little foreshadowing that things go bad. It's quite beat up.
Most important rule was that even if I found out where somebody worked or where they lived, then you'd never follow the same person twice. That was the most important rule. That was the one that I broke first.
So now we're going back in time again because he's got the long hair, scruffy look. We're 5 minutes into the movie and this sort of randomness to this starts to change. He follows this guy into a cafe and then that guy actually takes action by walking up to him.
Good morning. Hi, yeah, I'll have a black coffee, please, and what's that? Another coffee, black.
So we're kind of entering the second act. There's a change of status and now our main character is debating to go along to a path of change.
I wasn't following you. I saw you with your bag and I just thought you looked interesting.
Oh no, you're fake.
No.
And then he opens the bag.
My name's Cole. Take a look for yourself. What were you expecting? Drugs?
How much you make their old CDs?
Easy to grab a load, easy to sell, totally untraceable. The other stuff's a bit more tricky.
You don't look like a burglar.
Sounds like a compliment. Are you interested now?
And that's sort of the beginning of their friendship, partnership. And then he goes along one of his missions. He starts to learn the trick of the trades.
Us. Do that, you'd be surprised.
And try and break there's all kinds of philosophy about how to break in, how to steal things, how to change things. Our main character learns that this burglar actually likes to disrupt their lives, so take away personal things that are technically not worth much, but that they start to realize that they lose certain things.
Yes, box. What box? No one has a box. But men choose a shoebox.
So valuables then.
More interesting, more personal. Each thing tells something very intimate about people. We're very privileged to see it. It's very rare.
Hey, what the hell did you do that for?
Have an impact on their life beyond just the material things.
Take it away. Show them what they had.
At this point, I'm sort of really kind of starting to invest in the story, in these characters. You start to realize that Nolan really has a very good handle on what he wants the story to be and how he tells it. And things that looked random at first, you start to realize are actually quite intentional. And it all sort of comes back to this club and this particular woman that he meets.
Let you buy me a drink, but sex is completely out of the question. Still want to buy me that drink?
No.
Now his appearance has changed here quite a bit, so we are later in the story. This is a scene that sets up him for some form of ploy. Now I don't want to get too much into the actual revealing what this twist is in this film, but I just wanted to point out that Nolan already had this idea of nonlinear storytelling very much in his mind when he made his short and then this feature film before he even arrived at Memento, which is probably the perfect version of this concept that Nolan tends to apply over and over again. It really reflects the character's state of mind. Do you notice anything about the shot? Because when I saw it the first time, I'm like, oh, I guess Christopher Nolan already was a big Batman fan. Why would there be a Batman sign on the door? So he might have just given this character traits that are close to Nolan himself. There's that symbol again. Right there. What's actually happening here is that they're breaking into a new place, and that place happens to be our main character's house. So he initiated this, for some reason, wanted to get a kick out of this burglar burglaring himself and see what he would take away, the personal things, how he would disrupt that life. This turns out differently than he anticipated.
I'll see you check us out till we're going now.
We're not going to take anything.
No, we're not going to take it. We're like scrounge off some poor dog and fucking that fence.
Not taken.
What's really interesting about watching the film is you're being challenged to really figure out what is this riddle. Visually, I knew in the moment that this is the main character's apartment, but it wasn't told to me. There were just clues there.
This guy's unemployed. Listen, I gave the desk. He's unemployed. People with their jobs don't know this kind of fucking shit in their homes. He's
So you're
unemployed.
really putting the puzzle together as it happens. There's another scene where I felt like it's actually really interesting because they're burglaring this place of the woman we saw earlier in the bar, and in particular, he's doing this. He's looking at the piano bench. And we don't know what he's looking for. This is 28 minutes into the film. So then we come back to this where he has this scruffy look. So this is 30 minutes into the film. So 2 minutes later, where actually it gets revealed to us why he was looking at the piano bench. He's with his partner,
I'm going to bag it.
but then there's this earring here. He's going back to that premise. We want to change people's life by showing to them that we were there and messing with their personal things.
That's what it's all about. Interrupting someone's life. Making them see all the things that they took for granted. Piano definitely too big, I think.
Here comes the earring,
I just misplaced this.
and he puts it in the piano bench. So this is happening 33 minutes into the film. And then he goes back to the place at 28 minutes to look for it, and it is gone. When he looks for it the first time, we don't know what he's looking for. But then 3-4 minutes later, Nolan tells us what he's looking for is the earring that's not there anymore. So there's all these kinds of little twists and turns in the story that he's setting up and that he figured out either in the writing or in the editing to make us constantly be engaged and start thinking about what does this mean? What is happening? Well, we still don't quite know what the relationship is between him and the woman and our main character that he now clearly has an affair with and that he has a relationship with. I'm not going to get too much into the twist, like the main twist of this film, but I just want to encourage you again, this is a masterclass in filmmaking where somebody figured out what is the story that they want to tell and then figuring out what's the best way to tell the story so that the audience is constantly engaged. And it has to do with giving the where Nolan actually uses suspense versus surprise. So we go to 55 minutes into the film right here.
I want to hit a place. Well, I mean, let's go have a particular place. Some photos. Quick, for a friend. What's the place? Photos are in a safe, but I've got the combination. Well, it's for a friend with money. Money's in a safe.
We already know that this character knows exactly what that new place is that he wants to hit up, because it was already explained to us. The burglar is actually in a relationship with that woman, and that they were scheming the whole time and setting this up.
He's going to do it himself. Me, he did the bait and suit. That's perfect. That just worked. He got to cut his hair and change his clothes.
So, does that mean you tell me where you hid my hearing?
No. And I wouldn't wait for your panties either.
We're being told at 48 minutes into the film that this was all a setup, and that he promises to do this hit for her. So then at 55, he's pitching that plan to his partner here, and we already know this whole thing is set up, and it's actually intentional. So we're going into this knowing more than the main character, and it creates suspense. How will this affect this outcome? As opposed to surprise, they could have revealed all this, that he was in on it the whole time, somewhere at the end of the movie, and make it kind of a surprise reveal, a twist ending. But Christopher Nolan decides to give us more information than the main character, so that we're more involved long term. Because the more we know, the more we are engaged in the story.
What the fuck's going on?
He knows exactly what's going on.
I'm seeing someone.
He just revealed the whole plan to him, and he's like, what's going on?
I thought she looked interesting. Followed her. We had a drink, and now we're involved.
Have you slept with her?
Yeah, we're getting on really well. I want to give some of her stuff back to her, but I thought that would mean that.
You thought that would mean telling her that you fucking robbed her? How shrewd? I mean, how fucking rude of you not to tell her that?
He's a partner in crime. He knows exactly what the plan is, because he set it up that way.
That's a nice haircut, though. Nice suit as well. Look at that bloodstains there.
So if this was a surprise, if we didn't know that he's in a relationship with that other woman, that this was a setup, we would be completely confused right now. Why is he attacking him? Because we have all this upfront knowledge, we understand exactly what's happening. This is a great film, and it's entertaining to watch. It's career-defining already. Nolan produced this film that he shot over several weeks on zero money, whatever he could scrounge together to shoot this film on, I don't know what it is, 16 or so, black and white. And it became his calling card for Memento. This is the reason why he got to make that film. And as soon as he made Memento, he was on the map. Nolan has proven himself very successfully. He's accomplished everything now, including winning an Oscar and being knighted. It'll be interesting to see how he goes from here. But I do recommend that you check out this first feature film to be able to take these in-depth stuff.
Really cool. Very interesting movie. Wow. All right. That's a stream.